Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. My name is Emily. Today I am going to do a couple of things that I have been putting off and or avoiding for a while. And if you were here shortly after we put the landscape fabric down, we also put down all these T-posts. We put them along the edges of the fabric, and I am going to pull them off today and put them back where we were storing them, because as you can see, my melons and squashes and pumpkins are getting quite large. I mean, it's really a beautiful sight to see all of this down here. Even starting to get some flowers. That's the honeydew melon over there. No fruits yet, but that'll be coming soon. But I really can't put this off any longer. There's plenty of foliage now to keep the wind from catching the edges of the landscape fabric and blowing it away, which is why we had the T-post down there. But I don't want the plants to get so large that I'm not going to be able to safely get the T-post out without damaging the plants. And hopefully I haven't waited too long, because some of the plants are quite large already. Another thing that I've been putting off, that while I was doing this I realized I can't put off much longer, is the rest of the landscaping fabric. So when we put it down, we didn't get all of it down. We just got enough down that I could plant. And that was kind of the most important thing at the time. Well, now the weeds are starting to grow up. The vines are starting to grow from the melons and pumpkins and squashes. And they're getting closer and closer to each other. As you can see, a few of these vines are working their way towards the fence, which I'm sure these weeds have gotten tall enough to interfere with the shocking capabilities of the fence. This one in particular down here, I think this is an early acorn squash. It is right there. So I'm just going to redirect this for right now. So give me a couple more days, because I do not have time to address it today. As you can see, there are gray clouds in the sky. We are supposed to get some rain. I don't think I'm going to get rained out of what I want to accomplish today, but I definitely won't have time to take down this whole fence, mow, put more landscape fabric down, and put the fence back up, because as you could tell from our previous videos, that takes a while, at least for us. So that is not going to be a today sort of thing that's going to happen. My help will also depend on when I can get to this. My niece is still here today, and then at least part of tomorrow. I'm not sure how much of tomorrow. So Monday would probably be the earliest. We'll see what we can get done, when we can get it done, and hopefully we'll be able to get that finished before the vines get to the fence. Yeah, here's hoping. But speaking of my niece, which is why I was putting this off, partially because she had helped me reseed some sunflower seeds, and I'd put sunflower seeds all along those rows with the squashes and pumpkins and melons. And she was helping me reseed those when the plants weren't quite so big. And since it is on a hill, and she went to stand up from planting one hole, lost her balance, fell on her butt right on a plant. Thankfully, it was just a leaf, like a branch with just a leaf on it. It wasn't the main stem. It was damaged, of course, but nothing that the plant couldn't live through, thankfully. But I've been avoiding working in that area when she's out here with me because of that, because she wants to do what I'm doing. She wants to come help me water, and she wants to come help me plant seeds and trim and do whatever. But she's having a nap right now, so I thought I'd tackle that. It's also not super bright and sunny, so the T-posts were not very hot to the touch. That was another factor. It's just been so hot and sunny that they were always super hot. And I did say I was going to put them where we had been storing them, but I think I'm going to leave that for my husband to move them again, because I want to get to this other part. And that is what I've been avoiding, because I need to thin some things. Let me grab my pruners. Hi, Daisy. Oh, you gotta sharpen your nails, huh? You wanna come here? She's finally not mad at me anymore about the new cat. And she and Hazel are getting along pretty well, thankfully. Probably these. Hazel has also finally gotten a little bit more savvy about the dogs. They got in a good chase the other night and scared me half to death. Thankfully, she evaded them. I was not a happy dog mom that night. But, oh look, they're sitting right outside the door waiting to see if the cats come out. Stinkers. But got my pruners, and we are going to go do some thinning. Now, I don't know what it is about thinning. I think a lot of it has to do with like fear and anxiety, and am I going to pick the wrong one? What if I cut this one off and the other one dies? Do I really need to thin? Will I get more food if I don't thin? That sort of a thing. And then, are they big enough? Should I wait longer? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. I've put this off long enough. The first thing I'm going to thin is my okra. I think most of these have gotten big enough that I can tell that they are established. They're not getting eaten by bugs. There are a few of them that are still pretty tiny. Like this particular one right here, which is the only one in that hole, so I don't have to thin. I've already reseeded some of these holes. That one's got some cosmos in. I added a row of sunflowers between the okra. So these are mammoth sunflowers, I think is what I planted here. Oh yeah, I can tell from the seed that fell off. So this fell off of that when it opened up. This is the mammoth sunflower seed. And so these bigger ones are going to get trimmed down to one okra plant per hole. And we'll hope for the best. Okay, this already has just one. See, now we have to decide which one looks bigger, which one looks better. It's so hard to decide. This is why, one of the reasons I hate doing this. Okay, this leaf is a little damaged. They all have about the same amount of growth. So, But then this branch is stockier than this one, just a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut this one in the front. Eep. Ugh. Why does that trigger my anxiety so much? I don't know. Last year, I was trimming my bush squashes and had no problem whatsoever. I just went in there, snip, snip, snip. It's totally fine. But this year, for some reason, now this one, this hole, this one is much, much bigger than this one. So this is obviously the one that's got to go. This one doesn't bother me so much for some reason. Because it's not really a random choice. It has reasoning behind it. Because this one is so much bigger than this little one. Look how thick that stalk is in comparison. Yeah, so rest in peace, little one. Maybe I'll throw those to the chickens or we'll compost them. Okay. These are pretty similar. Again, I think this one's just a little bigger. Here we go. Goodbye. Alright, and this variety is just a warm-up because I have a much bigger, scarier thing to thin after this. Okay, hopefully that was a nice warm-up. Have to take a few deep breaths to chill myself back out. I think the reason that is stressing me out so much this year is because I feel a lot of pressure to grow a lot of food for my family. There's been some financial stress with the transition from my husband working in Indiana to working in Michigan. There's a little bit of a gap there. There's I've had my niece here, which has been great, but it's been different. So that change stresses people out a little bit. So there's that, which of course is also fantastic that my husband is home now. That has been a positive. And then the weather's been way hotter than what I've expected it to be, which is not something that I like. I haven't been able to do as much of my exercising that I usually do, which helps me deal with some stress, and just the world in general right now just feels stressful. So just adding on this little thing of killing a plant that is alive and living and isn't doing any harm except maybe cutting my food production. But now I'm moving on to bigger plants, much bigger than the okra plants. I'm moving on to my squash. Now, typically, my internal rule for thinning squash, I don't know if it's the right rule. You guys can let me know what you do. But for a bush squash, I would typically trim down to just having one plant. And a vining squash, I would just plant 3 to 4 seeds, whatever comes up gets to live, and just vine all over the place. Now, maybe that's not the right attitude with landscape fabric because those plants cannot root themselves down in different spots. But that's still kind of mostly what I'm going by this year for the vining squash. The bush squash, I'm not going to trim them down this year. We'll just see what happens. I've never gotten a huge production out of my bush squash anyway. I've grown 2 whole zucchini in my entire life, and that was last year. Not for trying, not for lack of trying, because I've tried to grow them every year that I've gardened. But I'm growing them again this year, and hopefully they do even better than last year, and we'll see. But this year, I'm just going to leave all of the bush squash alone. They're just, however many germinated is how many it's going to grow. And in some holes, I have nothing germinated. Even though I've reseeded twice in this area, there's still time to reseed again, but I'm going to give the seeds I put in there last time a few more days at least before putting more seeds in, because they're still within their window. And it's amazing how sometimes they'll come up like the next day, especially if it rains that night. And then other times it'll take the full, like, possible 14 days of their germination window. It's usually like 7 to 14 days or something like that. Like the spaghetti squash was 7 to 14 days. They literally took all 14 days, and then I had to reseed one hole. So we'll see. The Vining squash, I'm mostly leaving those alone too, except for two varieties. I am going to cut back to one per hole for my jack-o'-lantern pumpkins and my giant white pumpkins. Now, I do not expect to actually get any giant pumpkins because so far I haven't done any fertilizing. I may do some fertilizing if I can still get into the plant hole when I feel like tackling that. I haven't been watering them excessively. Squash plants use a lot of water, and I don't mean like overwatering. I just haven't been watering them at all since they germinated. Basically, I'm watering the holes where things haven't germinated yet, like the sunflower seeds that I planted, and then the replanting of them, and the replanting of different pumpkins and squashes. I'm watering the holes until things start germinating, and then I'm letting nature take over. I really need an overhead sprinkler for this squash patch because, I was having trouble getting through there to take those T-posts out, just stepping over and around things. For harvesting, I'm thinking maybe I should wear long pants and my boots, my long boots, just in case snakes show up or something, which I'm not really afraid of the snakes. And for the most part, I say that, but I am. Like, I'll be like, ah, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm fine. But I have to flip out first, then I'll be okay. So we mostly have blue racers around here, and they will mostly just like go away if they see you coming. I have heard that they will chase you. I am not a fan of that idea. We did see a water snake up pretty close to the house when there's no water this close to the house. There's water like way back in the very far corner of our property where there's kind of a swampy area. But that's far away, so I don't know why the snake was all the way up near the house. But the only snake we need to worry about is a type of rattlesnake, and it has a fancy name that I can't think of. But that is the only snake in Michigan that is venomous, that they'll all bite you. They will all bite you, but that's the only one that could kill you if it bites you. So I have thankfully not seen a lot of snakes up here, which is nice. I'm sure there are a whole lot more than I have seen, and I'm perfectly okay with that. They can just continue to not be seen, and we can coexist a lot more peacefully. But the reason I'm going to try to cut these back is to give them the best chance they can with the amount of effort I'm willing to put in and time that I have and energy that I have, that they can get as big as possible, so we could actually use a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin for a jack-o'-lantern, that it would actually be big enough for that. These giant white pumpkins were seeds that I saved from one that my niece, the mother of the great niece that is currently here, she took my oldest and my youngest to a corn maze / pumpkin patch a few years ago and bought this humongous pumpkin. It cost them $23, and it was gigantic. It was like, I don't know how to, probably 3 feet circumference, I would say, and about 2 feet tall, something like that. My brother carved a cat face into it for Halloween. It was pretty cool. If I can find a picture of that, I'll like put it up here, but I don't know if that was years ago, so I'm not sure I'll be able to find that. Anyway, I'm just rambling and probably trying to not cut these. So I should just cut that out and cut the plants instead. This makes me nervous. It's another one of those things. They're so big. They're growing so fast. I didn't mean to wait this long. I really didn't. But they have just grown so fast because they're just such large plants in general that they just got away from me before I really was like, yeah, I really need to do this. So I'm probably running out of time before nap time is over. So let's just get to it. These are the plants in question. These first 2 rows of pumpkins. Got the giant white and then the jack-o'-lantern right there. And they are huge. They are gigantic. I know for sure that there are some that only have 1 per hole, thankfully. So that will help. But there are some that probably have at least 3. So let's just get in there. These are probably going to be really spiky too. How many's in here? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 here. So that one's growing into my tomatoes. This one's growing towards the fence. This one's growing downhill. See, I'm trying to decide which one's growing the best because look down here. This one's already gotten female fruit. There aren't male flowers open yet, so that one's not going to be viable, most likely, because we would have to have an open male flower when this one opens in order to pollinate it. And there are male flowers, so maybe they will open up before this one, but honestly this looks bigger, so I'm not sure that I even need to worry about that. And then they're growing into each other, which is totally fine. There's no way to grow this many pumpkins and squashes without having them grow into each other. So I'm just going to have to make decisions and just cut. Just cut. Maybe I'll cut the one that's growing into the tomatoes and the one that's growing towards the fence, because, well, they're definitely going to run into the fence at some point and definitely interfere with the deer protection at some point. Maybe I can just slow it down a bit. Maybe I'll have time to put the landscape fabric down and then it will be hitting harder to begin with anyway. And I have most definitely seen signs of deer around the garden. Like there's a sandy area over there and there were deer footprints in it just yesterday morning. So they are still around, probably wanting to get in here because they got in here last year and they remember, oh, there's food there. Let's try to get that. And thankfully, so far, this fence and the deer netting that I put around the other sides is keeping them out. And I really want that to continue. It's so big. I feel so bad about this. now that the carnage is done, man, they were so big. But there's a few down here that only had one germinate per hole, and they are so much bigger. This is why I should have done it a whole lot sooner, because the rest of them would all be so much bigger. But I believe these 2 holes of the jack-o'-lantern style pumpkin were just one. But it's massive. It's a really thick stalk. This one too is, nice and big. It's stocky. And then this giant white pumpkin. This one is huge compared to this one that had a second growing in it. That's a lot thinner. A lot thinner. So don't be like me. Prune your giant pumpkins back early. I mean, really, I don't think any of them died. Not one single plant that germinated, in these pumpkins at least, were eaten by bugs or slugs or birds or killed by disease. So my worries were silly, and then it was more just a, oh, I'll get to it, and then they just kept growing and growing, and now, whew, they're huge. But I'm gonna give these plants to the chickens. I bet they will be super excited about that. And then I think I'm gonna go ahead and do something a little more fun, because, this was just stressing me out. Let's get something more fun accomplished today. We've got some interest now that I'm done throwing stuff at them. One came running up after the first plant, but then when I threw more, they're like, whoa, let's just wait. Got the rooster checking out to see if it's safe. What do you think, everybody? Oh, both roosters are here. Here come the guineas. They're always so skeptical of new stuff. They're kitchen scraps out here and they pounce, but stuff from the garden, they're so weird about. Now my older chickens, she's one of the older chickens, they used to, in their old run, they would go nuts for anything that I threw in there. But it was a lot smaller area than this, and they had basically killed everything alive in there. So that might be why. Oh, you just had a bath, huh? Interrupted Terry's bath, apparently. Now, before we go do that fun thing, I'm going to go make sure that my niece is up from her nap, because she should be by now. Get her a snack and let her come out and help, because there are some green beans ready to pick. Not a whole lot, but it's also her second to last day here, so this is the first, I guess, second thing we've been able to pick this whole time she's been here. The peas, she was able to pick some peas, but then they really petered out, and we had... What in the world? Kerfuffle behind me. We weren't able to pick anything else until today, I think. Well, I picked some peppers, but I didn't want her helping with that because the plants are so delicate. But the green beans, there's so many of them that if she hurts something, it doesn't matter. And kids can pick green beans. I mean, It's not that hard. Just hold on to the plant with one hand and pull the bean with the other hand, and that's the only rules you need to know. Well, and size. But they're obvious, the ones that need to be picked. So I'm just gonna let her go ahead and pick them. I think there's really only a handful because I went through and I kind of pushed around the plants and looked all over, and there's really just 2 places that there are beans ready to pick, and it's probably maybe like 10 beans, but maybe I'll be surprised and we'll find a whole lot more. I'm back with my basket and my teeny tiny helper. Where are you? There she is. And she's singing. And we are going to pick these green beans. Super excited about it. Are the first green beans of the season. Okay, you hold the plant with one hand and then pull on the bean with the other hand. So you need 2 hands.
Okay.
You got it. Yay, put it in the basket. There's one more. Not that, those are too little. Those are babies. But we can get this big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I got my shot.
Where are you trying to look for?
I was trying to look for the green beans.
Well, here, they're right here.
Oh.
You just lift up the leaves and look under and see if we see any more. There's more little babies, but no big ones. That one's will be ready in about 3 or 4 days.
But that one is short.
Yeah, too short.
Wait.
Is it too hard? Oh, I got one. I got one. Can you get that one?
Yes.
Here, I'll hold the plant. You pull. Yeah.
Yay, we should back it. Oh, found it.
Pretty soon we'll get lots and lots and lots.
I'm going to run when I think.
Oh, there's another one.
You found that one again?
Yep.
I found it too.
Yay, good teamwork.
I'm going to look under.
Okay. She wants to go check out the swings, and then maybe she'll come back and help, right?
Are you talking to your camera?
Yep.
And then I can come back.
If you want to, or you can play on the swings if you're done.
Okay. But I can't play on my swings. It's the swings are moved.
If they're wet, you can't play on them.
No.
You can play on them if they're dry. Now you can play on them. Well, you can do the yellow one by yourself.
Woo!
You figure it out. Lean side to side. I guess I'm taking a break too because she needs to swing. one side of one row done. I'm going to go down the other side of this one and then go through the other row. And my niece has abandoned me to go play in the sand, which is just fine. I'm having my husband come out or send one of the other kids out to keep an eye on her because she's carrying water from the kiddie pool, because it rained and there's water in it, over to the little sand pit, and that makes me a little nervous because my eyes are otherwise occupied. So I'll get back to this as soon as somebody comes out to help keep an eye on her for safety. Here is the harvest. It's not quite enough for the whole family to have for dinner, but I think I'll make them for dinner anyway. There were a couple that had gotten a little big and a few that I picked a little small because they look like maybe they'd be ready tomorrow, and I'd rather do more of an every 2 to 3 day picking than an every single day picking, but we will see how the season progresses. Funny enough, not pick one single bean from the beans planted in the same garden row as the potatoes. And I noticed some of the plants looked more yellow, like a much lighter, brighter green than the dark green that most of these are over here. There's some lighter colored ones in here too, but most of the beans came from this row. Most of these were planted later than these. It could be coincidence, it could be because they are planted next to the potatoes, even though I read they're supposed to be a good companion crop to grow next to potatoes. Maybe that's not actually the case. Or maybe the ones in the second row that's just green beans, maybe they get a little bit more water because they're downhill. I don't know. But at any rate, that row has not produced any beans yet. There are flowers, there are little baby beans that are several days away from being ready, not even a couple days. But I'm also sure that I missed some in this other row that is all green beans, because when I was going down the second side, I saw some that were pretty far on that side that I grabbed that we missed on the first way down. But thank you for hanging out with me and my little niece as we harvested green beans. I love having little kids in the garden. I always incorporated my vegetable garden at my preschool and daycare that I used to run, and just included it in the curriculum, just planned for time that they would be able to help me plant things, that they'd be able to grow their own stuff that they could take home occasionally, or that we would plant in the garden. And it was always so fun. They're so full of wonder at that age, and I think it helps them be more adventurous in their eating, to be helping out in the garden. And honestly, I got a little choked up thinking about that when I was picking these green beans tonight, because honestly, my kids didn't really grow up with a whole lot of that. We didn't have a place for a garden at our first house, and it just wasn't something that I thought about. But at our second house, I put in a garden, and it brought me so much joy, but the kids were already getting older and weren't super interested in helping, and here they're even less interested in helping. My youngest was asking for her own section of the garden this year to plant in, and I was like, sure, I could give you a section of stuff. And when it was time to plant things, she was completely uninterested in starting any seeds, planting any plants. The only thing she was interested in was making sure that every single big pink tomato that I had in a pot got planted along this trellis here, because I was like, go pick which tomatoes you want to plant on this trellis, and she brought all the big pinks over, and she could have cared less what else was there because she had picked that packet out at the store 2 or 3 seasons ago. Yeah, 3 seasons ago. And she wanted to grow that because it was pink. And she still wants me to grow it because it's pink. She swears it's her favorite tomato, and it's probably just because it's pink. Because it's not really, it's a good tomato, but it's not a fantastic tomato. It's just a good tomato. But to her, because it is pink, it is fantastic. So anyway, thank you for hanging out with me as we pick green beans, as I muddled through my anxiety, chopping off gigantic pumpkin plants, and getting those T-posts out of the garden before it was too late. I'm glad all of that stuff is done, and I'm excited that green bean season has started. I will be canning a lot of green beans coming up pretty soon. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye.